Alrighty guys, hello and welcome back to the show. Today we're going to be doing a kind of a replay overview tutorial, kind of commentary on this particular game. So this game was submitted by Martian, who is our Aeon yellow player. I can go ahead and introduce the teams real quick. This is 2v2 on 2v2 sandbox. So we have Martian in yellow going Aeon. We have his teammate to the north, MFO1, going Cybran. He's going first land. And then down at the bottom, we have Arctic Nomads going UEF, going first land. And then last, we have Alaric Kerensky going Cybran, going first land. So, like I said, this is going to be more of a tutorial video and less of a casting video. And so I'm going to watch this at high speed, and we're going to stop and talk about certain things that happen throughout the game. The reason why I picked this game is because it was very similar to a situation that I found myself in a 2v2 on this map. I want to look at how Martian handles it, and I want to talk a little bit about what I think he does that's really good, and I want to talk about some things that I think that he could do a little bit better from kind of an outside perspective. While these guys are getting set up, I do want to take a quick moment and thank everybody for taking the time to watch this video, like the channel, subscribe. I feel like I learn more from you guys in the comment section with your tips on different builds, how I can handle situations in the ladder matches that I post. And I hope you guys get some value out of these tutorials and these casts, whether it just be entertainment or whether it's actual things that will impact your gameplay. So I really hope you guys get value out of that, because I get a lot of value out of you guys taking the time, taking 30 seconds, 2 minutes, however long it takes to actually write out a comment and help me become a better player. So it means a lot, and I'll stop getting all sentimental here, and we'll go ahead and get into this replay. So I'm gonna go ahead and speed things up. We'll do a little bit of a time lapse here, and then I'll be back whenever the first kind of incident I want to talk about happens. Okay. So to catch you guys up, MFO has moved towards the middle with his comm. He is engaging Arctic Nomads. Alaric is moving to assist. Martian does not have his comm in the middle as of yet. So this is going to be a 2v1 that happens between these two commanders. There is definitely more spam here as well for Arctic Nomads as well as Alaric than there is for MFO. So MFO has gotten himself into a pretty sticky situation. So outside of that, Martian is trying to move his spam. So this is, I think tip number one is never leave your wingman. There's definitely something to be said about having different strategies throughout the game, and whether you are using different strategies throughout the game differently. So in a 2v2, one player might focus on air, another player might focus on ground a little bit more, and that's definitely valid. But in this particular instance, we have MFO kind of hung out a little bit to dry, and he was probably a little bit too far forward, but you should always be there to back your buddy up, especially in 2v2 games if it is at all possible. So this is a very similar situation that I found myself in, like I was talking about earlier, where I was on this map. My partner was a little bit too aggressive on this map and put me in a 2v1 scenario. So we'll talk about how Martian handles it here in a second after the next time lapse, and then we'll talk a little bit about how I handled it, the differences between the two, why I think there are good things to talk about from both sides of the coin. So let me go ahead and speed this up again, and I'll see you guys in a second. Okay, and we are back. So Martian is grabbing some upgrades on his comm, or has paused them actually currently, but has set up a hard point kind of on this hill. So let's pause for a second and talk about some things that I think he's doing really well. He's got fantastic map control. He's secured both of these sides, and has kept his opponents pinned into this little one area. As a result, he's also expanded really well to his allies' starting location. Has already upgraded a lot of these to T2 mexes, and is upgrading, wow, a lot of them at the same time. So we'll see his mass really jump ahead of his competition. So as far as mass accrued, he is heavily out-ecoing everybody with about 30% more mass gained than the entire other team put together at 76 K mass total accrued just for him. Rates that are coming in, obviously reclaim is fluctuating here, but averaging about 150-ish reclaim or mass per tick. A lot of this is due to reclaim operations that he's got being done from these engineers. and upgrading a lot of these mass extractors to Tech 2 en masse, so which is great. Love to see that. So some things that I think he is doing wrong. I think that he is putting a lot of energy and a lot of mass into this kind of hard point right here, and it's starting a turtle war. So here's what I think, and I fall into this too, and the only reason I'm saying this is because I'm a third party looking in. If I was playing the game, I would probably do this exact same thing. Is, okay, somebody's turtling, I need to set up a fire base to break this turtle. Now there's nothing wrong with setting up a fire base to secure your position, but I don't think that trying to use this fire base to break the enemy's base is the best use of his mass here. He's got such an advantage on the other team as far as mass accrued, as well as overall build power and map control, that he doesn't need to focus this turtle head on. What he instead, I think, should do is shut down a lot of these factories. So he's producing a ton of units that he probably will never use, or he's going to, potentially suicide them into these heavily fortified positions, and instead just push for T3. And we can see what his, so he's still at T2 land, so he could push for T3 right now and then get like a nuke or go for artillery or something like that, some kind of game ender, or he could go for GCs. There's a lot of options that are on the table for him. He's got plenty of mass to be able to push a quick T3 upgrade and then go for something that will kind of end the game, instead of kind of fostering this little standoff that we've got here in the middle, where it's just a race to see who can build more tactical missile defense and who can build T2 artillery emplacements and who can build more shields faster, etc. So that's, I think, one mistake that he's made here. And if you guys know me, the turtle is kind of the bane of my existence. I like playing wide open maps where you can shift and attack in different areas instead of playing these more choked maps. But anyway, that's what I think. That's one thing that I think he could do better, is instead of focusing his mass and his energy on fortifying this position and creating more units that won't really do him a whole lot of good, I think that he could instead be building out more of an end game strategy, pushing for T3, going for a GC, going for artillery or a nuke or something like that, and then just putting a stop to this. So let's go ahead and time lapse this again, and we'll see how he ends up handling this. That was actually not a really long time lapse. He has sent his commander in, and I wanted to talk a little bit about this. So he invested a lot into these commander upgrades, so gun, shield. These upgrades are not going to do him a whole lot of good, just because there's T2 on the field. He is overcharging, but T2 is on the field. There's a lot of static emplacements, and an Aeon sniper comm, as strong as it is at T1, it's outliving its usefulness, I think, at this point in the game. So I think that he actually pushes this comm in here, and we'll see just how quickly, even though he does have that shield in place, it's a 3-star sniper comm with the shield upgrade. We can see how quickly even these kind of potentially subpar Cyber point defenses that can actually deal with this as he pushes his commander in. Still insanely out ecoing though, up by almost 30k, 40k actually. So Cerberus turrets engage. They're gonna tear through these asylums pretty quickly, and he's spending his ammo attacking T1 units that are out in front. So we got the first asylum, shield's about to fall. More Cerberus turrets are being created. The second one about to fall as well. And then he decides to back up. So as he is kind of retreating, we can see how quickly that shield ends up dissipating on the comm due to the Cerberus turrets. So maybe if he had support there, he could have been able to do it, but one comm on its own would not be great. And so instead of having the support go with his commander on that side, he is instead moving his spam up here on the top into a network of triads, as well as pillars and superior tech from Arctic nomads. We're seeing these triads really, they do work with their AoE on these auroras. And so, I mean, this is really just a mass gift for Arctic Nomads, right? So he could then send engineers out to reclaim a lot of this stuff. So you probably should have sent the spam in with his comm. So if you're going to attack a turtle, have a concentrated point that you're going to be hitting it instead of spreading out. Kind of your attack. So, think about this like overlapping armor plates where if you apply constant pressure from all sides, the plates kind of interlock and make each other stronger. Whereas if you apply concentrated pressure at one particular point, plates are much more likely to buckle. So right now, he needs to be applying constant pressure at a single point instead of spread out pressure around the map on these guys, especially with the way that his mass total in eco is up, which we've already talked about. I mean, he's at 38,000 total mass accrued over his opponents. So let's go ahead and time lapse this again. Okay, and we're back. So turtles and hardpoints are continuing to be kind of the theme of this game, except this one is starting to get broken from Arctic Nomads, who's then putting a lot of time and effort into maintaining this turtle. But let's look at actually how it got broken. So we have Serenities showing up, T3 mobile heavy artillery, quite a few of them, I think 3 so far on the front line for Martian. He's got up to T3 land, but he's not doing any T3 kind of end game stuff, right? So we talked about the way that we want to break this is not using more standoff tactics. And yes, these Serenities will eventually break this base, as we are seeing right here. He has more eco, so he will be able to outproduce, take out these shield generators, etc., and be able to oust this. But with the amount of money that he's invested into mobile T3 artillery, shield generators, he could have easily gone for a GC and just blown really straight through this and mopped it all up. He's also still producing T1 units. We've just got oceans of Auroras and anti-air guns and land scouts. Like, this is all a lot of wasted mass that's being thrown into these Tech 1 units at this point. You don't need this many to hold a turtle. And the mass that he's throwing into these units could be used elsewhere to make a nuke, make a emissary. The other thing I do want to talk about is throughout this entire game, he has made it to Tech 3 land over here, but he's still at Tech 1 air. So he's really only playing kind of one avenue of the game. And this is a map, and this is a match where I believe all 3 are viable. Where you should be playing land, ground, and even sea to some extent. We see this from Arctic Nomads, who's up to T2 Navy and is pushing out some governors. So these waterways can help control a lot of this map, especially if you get some battleships out on the field. Apologies for the frame drops. I'm not really sure what's going on, but being that this is kind of a tutorial video, I figured we could sacrifice a little bit of frame rate. I'm not quite sure what's going on. I'll sort this out for later videos. So anyway, sorry about that. But back to what I was saying, I think that he should go for T3 air here and get some spy planes over the enemy base. Because maybe one of the reasons why he's playing so timid is he doesn't know how underdeveloped the enemy team is. That they are only at T2 mass. Arctic Nomads is only pulling in 36 mass per tick. So I don't think he realizes how far ahead he truly is. And getting some spy planes over this would be invaluable there. Even doing things like getting some AA gunships in here in the middle, he could just snipe Arctic Nomad's commander. So T3 air, if your opponent is not ready for it, if they're throwing all of their mass and all of their time into this turtle, and you have areas where you can sacrifice mass, like in these massive T1 land armies, that can be invaluable as far as giving you a leg up if you make the push to T3 air and surprise your opponent. Because I'm not seeing scouting really from either side, so nobody really knows what the other is up to. But we are seeing T3 engineers getting produced. Okay, so here is the actual GC production, as well as production of a T3 power generator. I think maybe another mistake is he produced a lot of T2 PGens. I don't think you need this many, and I don't think it's actually that efficient to make this many, especially if you're already at T3 land. You're going to get, essentially, like if you take all 5 of these T2 power generators, you're going to get essentially the same amount of power out of just this one T3 reactor. for a good deal less of the cost. Alrighty, so GC is done. We're seeing it engage enemy forces. They are all T2. They will, of course, evaporate to the GC. Even supporting it with some T3 anti-air, which is always good to see. You never want to see your GC or any other unit, experimental or otherwise, get popped by T3 gunships if a huge flight of broadswords was to suddenly appear over the top. But again, I mean, we can go back to scouting. There is no T3 air from either player, I don't think. Actually, nope, take that back. There is T3 air from Alaric. So maybe the T3 mobile anti-air was justified, but I think that the scouting means that he could have saved some mass there. So he's going to mop up all of these defensive emplacements and break the turtle. So remember, we talked about concentrated pressure in one particular area instead of spread pressure all around the map is how you get rid of a turtle. And it's easy for me to sit up here with my third person view and say exactly what he should do and call the shots. Like I said, if you guys watch any of my games, you know that the turtle is kind of the bane of my existence. But anyway, GC has made it past the static emplacements, and at this point there's really nothing that Team 2 can do. There's no additional static emplacements. I take it back, there's one Cerberus turret that's going to tickle the GC for a little bit. GG is called. We have Arctic Nomads control K-ing, and then I'm sure Alaric is going to be close behind. Just elects to die to the GC. Okay, perfect. So let's summarize this. So good game to everybody. Martian, well done, bud. 1v2 is never fun, no matter what kind of map it is. So good job keeping your head there and putting together a strategy that ended up winning you the game. So some things that I think he could have done a little bit better. Just to kind of summarize, like we've already talked about, shut down factories that don't need to be producing T1 spam. This is something I've just now recently started getting into. It saves you a lot of mass if you're not just producing units that you're just going to throw into a meat grinder of a turtle. Second is apply concentrated pressure in one area instead of spread pressure across a series of areas. So with the GC that he built, he was able to break this turtle really easily because he applied a lot of damage to one particular area instead of sending his comm from one side, T1 units from the other side, and then just really losing both fronts because he's not working, his units aren't necessarily working together. Lastly is use all available theaters to your advantage. So we do see him building a Tsar, so he was going to get into the air game a little bit more, but go for T2 air, go for T3 air. If for no other reason other than the fact that you can build spy planes and get really good intel on what's going on in these guys' bases. Lastly, and I think maybe I said third was last, but this is actually lastly, is scouting. This is something that I don't do a great job of either, but I didn't see any scouts from really either side, barely any in the game. I maybe saw a couple go out initially, but scouting is something that you need to be doing throughout the game so you can understand what your opponent is bringing to bear against you. And if you had been scouting, you probably would have realized that you could have won that game a lot faster. Just by building a GC or by maybe making a drop into their backfield, things like that. Lots of different ways that you can play the game whenever you start thinking three-dimensionally in terms of land, air, and ground, instead of just thinking about how much ground can you ram down the other person's throat to end up winning you the game. I will call it there, guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. I love making these kinds of videos just because they really help me get better at my play. So Martian, thank you so much for your submission, bud. If you guys want to see any of your replays get broken down, send them my way. You can drop them in the comments below, or you can reach out to me on Discord. My username is TheDuelist, pretty much as you see in any of my ladder matches, and I have my friend ID as well in the description, so you should be able to add me as a friend there. But you can send me replays there as well. In the future, I'll be looking at adding a Discord server, I think, just as the channel gets bigger. Maybe we facilitate some subscriber games. I'm not really sure how I'm going to work this out yet. Like I said, I'm working through some of the logistics, and this is all new to me. But I will go ahead and stop yammering. I really appreciate y'all's time and attention. Hope you guys learned something, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.